Well, thanks, Jamie. I appreciate the intro. And thanks for coming and attending this session. The MD Expo is pretty awesome. It really has been a great program. A couple of us came in a little bit earlier and had some discussions about some of the stuff going on in our industry. And yeah, that's what I'm going to talk about today. Hopefully from a practical standpoint, kind of try and stay out of the weeds for the most part. As Jamie mentioned, I do want to thank MD Publishing for what they do for our career field. By them putting these venues together, and then of course the vendors and sponsors of these programs allow us. Thank you, Phoenix Data Systems and Mobile Instrument and others who come here and spend the money, and as she said, allows us to attend for nothing, sponsors these great food periods that we have from time to time, and of course those happy hours, and most of all too, for you guys to show up, your employers that provide the ability for you to come here and the time to come here. So this program, I'm going to talk about collaborative communities, and collaborative communities is something that is a genesis from the FDA. But before I get into that, one of the things I want to point out over today and tomorrow is quality management system. You're going to hear me talk about that through my presentation. And I looked at the schedule of events, and there's my session. There's a session going on right now just down the hallway. A good friend of mine, Dennis Wolf, who is the founder and chairman of Innovatus. He's presenting on ISO 13485. My good friend Blake and Mike Powers from Christiana tomorrow morning in this same room, I believe, are presenting also on quality management systems. You know, you're going to hear a lot about this in the coming months, and that's what we're going to talk about this morning with regard to the FDA and some initiatives, some pressures that are causing this situation to be talked about. But before I start into that, I want to talk a little bit about a brief history, because there's a lot of folks that don't have gray or balding heads like myself. So I want to, this isn't the first rodeo when we talk about some of these pressures that are in our industry. So just a little bit of history. Our field was created back in the 70s. Really, Ralph Nader came along. There were a bunch of patients that seemed to be getting electrocuted while they're on an EKG machine or any kind of a monitoring device. And really the birth of clinical engineering was started during that time period, and patient safety was the focus. NFPA came about in 1985. You know, that's part of our mix of responsibilities. And of course, the ubiquitous use of medical technology in the 80s, 90s. Goodness gracious, we transitioned our program from an outsourced program in October of 2016, October 1st, 2016. We had about 72,000 devices in the inventory. Today, we have 106,000 devices in the inventory. So in just 3 short years, our inventory has exploded. So technology is all around us. The N-title CO2 requirement for conscious sedation and things like that. So some of the pressures that started to drive these items, you know, DRGs came about in the 1980s, diagnostic related groups. So up until that point, hospitals were reimbursed for costs. So Medicare, Medicaid patients, insurance providers would reimburse whatever the hospital billed. And obviously the pressure became how we're going to cut costs. They came up with a program called diagnostic related groups, a lot of different codes, and we're going to bill, or we're going to reimburse according to the code in the DRG. So if you have cardiac surgery, you got there was a specific cost associated with cardiac surgery, and that's how it reimbursed. So, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, this isn't our first rodeo. About 20 years ago, In 1997, there was a notice of proposed rulemaking about trying to regulate the servicing industry. So this is not a new subject area that we're talking about today. Fast forward, like I said, 20 years to 2016. Got a lot of pressures and tensions on cutting costs in healthcare. The Affordable Care Act, right? Was that 2008? I think the Affordable Care Act, 2009. So the pressure to reduce costs associated with the ACA, margins associated with the sale of medical devices, healthcare providers were being pressed as well because of the reduction in reimbursement again. And then in 2016, this new pressure on the FDA to look at post-market activities of medical devices. So servicing and remanufacturing was the topic. And the definition of servicing and remanufacturing was pretty much non-existent. And it was very broad. We would sell equipment to a third party that we're done using, and they would take it back. And what they did with it, maybe they painted some of the covers, or maybe they did change some of the software, or loaded new software on it, and it became a concern in the industry. Additionally, because of the loss of margins and things like that, some of the manufacturers saw competition from third parties, as well as in-house departments, HPM departments. So they see this as an opportunity to level the playing field. Hey, I have all these regulatory obligations from the FDA. They should have the same regulatory obligations. So there was a lot of discussions. The FDA asked for comments through the Federal Register. They wanted everybody to comment. It was a big push in our industry. I say our industry, I'm presenting from an in-house perspective. No disrespect to third parties or manufacturers or others that are in the room, but that'll be the perspective that I speak from. But it certainly impacts on all of us. So again, this all starts off in March of 2016. There's a comment period, and then, I think one of the things too, one of the things that I want to talk about is the lines are really blurred in our industry. Back in 1997, the lines weren't too blurred. Manufacturers stayed in their little environment, in-house biomeds had their environment, and then you had third parties. Today, that's all changed. You have General Electric and Siemens and other manufacturers who have their own multi-vendor service programs. So they're servicing lots of other devices other than their own core equipment. So there's that blurring of the line. So the impact is across the board. It's not only the in-house programs, but these manufacturers are driving a lot of this pressure on the FDA. So we had this workshop in 2016. There were hundreds of people that attended the workshop down in DC. And what came out of that eventually in 2018 was a report. And the report was titled, you see the title there, and essentially the end result was, hey, you know what? We don't see a whole lot of evidence to demand a change in the current processes. However, so it was that however that made everybody stop breathing again for just a second. So they continued to have pressure on them, and in December of 2018, there was another workshop held. And again, a lot of different stakeholders were in the room, hundreds of people. I had attended that, and I've been saying, Lots of our peers in the industry attended. Manufacturers were there. Mobile Instrument was there. A lot of different interested parties were in the room, and there was a very lots of interesting, heated discussion from time to time about what's that servicing and remanufacturing. Where do you draw that line? So they came out of that meeting, and what we're going to talk about, touch upon today, is this collaborative community terminology. So the FDA, Jeff Sharon, who is the director for the CDRH, told members of the workshop that the goal of that meeting down there in 2018 was to develop something that's in the interest of public safety. Should there be an interest by the OEMs, the ISOs, and other device ecosystem, others in the device ecosystem in addressing shared objectives and solving shared problems on an ongoing basis, parties may wish to establish a collaborative review. So, over the last year, we've had this group of folks, both of which David Barney is part of that, I'm part of that, Mike's part of that, Mike Powers, and there's quite a varied group of individuals who are part of that, and we call it our pre-collaborative community group. We're trying to establish a charter just to try and give us all direction. Keep the conversation. We have some very big groups. AdvaMed is the representative of manufacturers. We have MITA in that group. I'm sure some of you have heard about MITA. MITA is the medical imaging group that represents X-ray imaging companies. You have IAMRS. IAMRS is the group that represents remanufacturers and resellers of medical devices. Rob Kerwin is the person that's on that group, and I mention these names because you should be familiar with some of these folks, and you know who's working on your behalf should you side with one situation or another, just to make sure that your interests are represented in the group. We also have subgroups, and one of those subgroups is HDOs, Healthcare Delivery Organizations, which I'm a part of and Mike's a part of. And we're working hard to make sure that our interests, and the interests of the hospital, is taken into consideration. One of the things at that 2018 FDA meeting in DC, you know, there were a lot of people on this panel. I forget how many people were up there, 20 or 30 people up on the panel. And as I heard them all talk about servicing and remanufacturing of medical devices and the danger associated with in-house programs and the way they perform maintenance and things like that, I recognized that not one of them up there, Sam Jocks was up there, but she was representing the ACCE. Not one of them up there was a hospital employee. And you know, so I kind of raised my hand and said, hey, you know what? We don't have anybody from a hospital up there. You know, we had some third party, Coffle and others were represented up there. So that's when they really wanted to accelerate the formation of the collaborative community, so everybody's interest is represented. So, you know, I kind of get a little bit of the, you know, when you hear the word collaborative community, and it's a government, right? And, you know, kind of like a little feel good, you feel good, you know, kumbaya. And I get a little bit of that as well. You know, it's kind of, we don't want to make a decision, you know, through law. So let's see if we can get these folks to talk nicely to one another and see if we can all come to a resolution. So Jeff continued this approach between public and private sector stakeholders to meet together on an ongoing basis with mutual respect. And that's what we've been doing on a monthly basis. We have a call every month. There's lots of stakeholders on the call. As I mentioned, we've been working on the charter for several months now. We're not there yet, probably started May, maybe April, May. What was that? Should be done next month. Absolutely. We've had a lot of red lines and edits, and so we're in much better shape today. So a little bit of, and this is all volunteer, though. So all these folks are volunteering their own time and efforts to come together. So here's the vote perking of the community. Here's the representatives I spoke about. There were, I bet you, Mike, maybe 400 people there, 400 people. Monthly basis, we're very close to the charter, as Mike mentioned, we'll probably be there next month. So what is a collaborative community? To continue form where public and private sector members proactively work together to achieve common objectives and outcomes, to solve shared challenges, and to leverage collective opportunities and environment trust and respect between movements. So we are in a pretty collaborative community. We don't have the group and the membership really set up. So through this charter, we're working to establish the governance. You know, who votes? You know, how many HVOs get to vote? How many manufacturers get to vote? Who's the representatives? So we're working through all of that. As you might imagine, you know, it's a little bit of a slog getting through some of it. So I shift gears a little bit. So we have all these discussions, all this activity surrounding collaborative communities, discussing servicing and new manufacturing. But what's at the heart? What's the genesis of all this activity? And it really is the FDA 21 CFR, the manufacturers have to comply with, the quality management process that they comply with, and they really don't recognize that, again, I'm speaking from the perspective, that we also have regulatory obligations for servicing medical equipment. So they don't recognize that they want, you know, they have 21 CFR, that's their guiding principle. Well, we don't have our guiding principle. We have our own guiding principles of quality that we put together for our programs. So I'm going to talk about quality management, like I said, late. We're going to talk about tomorrow morning, probably in much more detail than I'm going to talk about. My point in discussing this today with you is to close to it and try and calm the craziness going on. Because I think there's a lot of emotions surrounding, oh my gosh, you know, I'm going to be severely regulated now. I have Joint Commission, I have CMS on my back, I have AABB, CLIA, and so many other regulatory states, so many regulatory bodies already on what we do. Why do I have to comply with another situation? And as we go through these slides, you'll see, hopefully, I calm your fears, because I think you're doing a lot of it already. So the FDA, as I mentioned, has this part that we've all been using, 21 CFR 820. However, they want to move that to a homogeneous solution that's worldwide. So ISO standards. ISO 1345 is a medical device standard. It's used everywhere outside of the United States for the most part. So as the FDA moves through a transition from this old codification into the new ISO standard, you will see a lot of companies, and you probably see most of the manufacturers today have ISO 1345. However, we need to start thinking about 1345 and kind of making our processes mirror ISO 1345. ISO 1345 very closely resembles ISO 9000. So it very closely aligns with ISO 9001. And in fact, if you're a DMV surveyed hospital, DMV is an ISO 9001 survey accreditation organization. And correct me if I'm wrong, So they do not make the hospital let you ISO 9001. That's correct. However, you have to have policies and processes in place that mirror 9001. So why did I make that distinction? So if you want to say, one of the things I wanted to do probably for the last 5 to 10 years is my program, I would love to have ISO 1345. Well, for the program that I'm in right now, that would probably cost several $100,000 at least to accomplish. Because I have 28 acute care hospitals, I have FEDs, freestanding Ds, I have surgery centers, I have unit imaging centers. I have all of those under my responsibility where we service and maintain equipment. You have to have them surveyed. When you go for an accreditation, for ISO accreditation, you have to have them surveyed. So the cost to go out and have an accredited body, a notified body, survey those sites, those costs are all borne by the folks going after that accreditation. So it's very expensive. However, as I mentioned, the DMV, I think the only accreditation body that really talks about ISO 9001 and following those quality management principles. I appreciate that speaking more because I'm not a DMV expert. So the hope is to the FDA aligning with the ISO that, hey, it's going to relieve burden on the manufacturers, it's going to relieve the record keeping for the medical device manufacturers, and really it synchronizes the activities of servicing medical devices. There's one thing I want to talk about though. So the thing with the FDA, they like guidance documents, right? They put together guidance documents. So they've been working on this guidance document to define the servicing and manufacturing. Fast forward to this month, they hope to release it Q1 2020. However, this month, October 2019, the FDA released its final draft and guidance publication priorities for 2020. However, an executive order came out, and it aims at curtailing enforcement of guidance documents. So a guidance document is not law. Okay? The FDA, when they have enforcement actions, when they go after a manufacturer, when they go after a manufacturer, they use law, right? 21 CFR, it's a Code of Federal Regulations, that's law. Guidance documents aren't law. So the executive order says, we can't keep on governing through guidance documents. That's not appropriate. So they kind of issued this executive order. It'll be interesting to see how the FDA responds regarding this guidance document for services versus manufacturing. So maybe that'll be turned into a part of the Code of Federal Regulations, but it probably will slow down the progress of it. So here's the when an agency takes administrative enforcement action, means adjudication or otherwise makes determination of legal consequence for a person must establish a violation of the law by applying statute or regulation. One example would be the agency may not treat non-compliance with standard contact announced solely in the guidance document. So stay tuned for that change we get there. So I think services and manufacturers is more codified than just data. So this is like that's a little back to okay. So how does this impact us? How does this impact services? Well, you really need to educate yourself and your teams, not just you, your teams. The regulatory environment is impacting our healthcare technology management business. So this quality management is an important piece of the puzzle of what we do. And resources like MD Publishing and the things that they provide for us here, their publications, ACCE, If you look at those websites, they're always right on the front page. They're talking about ISO 1345. They're talking about collaborative communities. There's tons of information on these websites. Other professional organizations as well, AdvaMed, MITA, and others contain information about this. So review your quality management processes in your current HCM program. Have they aligned with ISO 1345 and the FDA current codification? Most HCM programs are focused on compliance with CMS, Joint Commission B&B HVAC, and my point is that that's probably not enough. Okay, I think you need to shift your focus to not only include the CMS requirements, but also include the quality management initiatives that are coming down the road. So this is the calming effect, hopefully, when we talk about ISO 1345. Your CMMS, treat that as an extension of a device history record. So when a manufacturer makes your device that you buy, immediately it starts a document called device history record. Everything that goes into that device, the integrated circuits, the plastics, the metals, and things like that is all documented. What lot number, where they came from, who the supplier was, all of that goes into the device history record, and then it hits our loading die. Okay? It's our loading die. And let's say we service it in-house. So the OEM loses the continuity of the device history record. And that's certainly something that they complain about. Well, you know, according to 21 CFR, we're supposed to maintain a device history record. We're required by law to maintain a device history record, but if we do the service in-house, they lose that continuity. So one of their arguments is the pressure, we got to put pressure on these in-house programs, third-party programs, to comply with the same improvements of our 820. I do that, and I improve my I talk about it all the time on our monthly meetings and bi-monthly meetings about the program. Our CMMS is an extension of device history record. Document everything. Document everything. There's two manufacturers that actually ask for copies of things that we do on those medical devices. The manufacturers ask for us to send updates on medical devices that we work on. And this is a company based in 2100. So here, yeah, that's it. And I'm trying to remember my presentation. I apologize, but I can get that.
May I interject?
Yes, sir.
I got to tell a story. About 20 years ago, I saw a served on the jury for malpractice against the dentist, and her assistant was in the chair, and the lawyer said, "Did you remember 3 years ago if my client had a diaphragm in the mouth?" She went to pick up the chart, and he said, "I object. I asked you from the memory," and the judge said, "That is from memory." And I always remember that. I document everything when I fill out awards because that is our memory. And if you're ever brought up in years from now, and you get to pick that up and look at it. So I always like to tell people that story.
Ron's file, because that's the argument I make to my team as well. Because there's a never-ending argument in the HCM. Well, how much do I document? You know, how much do I have to account for 75% of my time, 80% of my time? What do I have to document? And my response is, you document 100% of what you do on a medical device. There's no magic, productivity number. You document 100% of what you do on a medical device. We provide our teammates iPads, they can use their cell phones. We have an application on those devices, so when they go rounding in the morning and Nurse Jim stops Bob and says, hey, can you come and look at my bedside monitor? I have an issue with zeroing the pressure. Bob can go into the room, takes his phone or his iPad, scans the barcoded label for the inventory number, pops all the information on that device. Bob opens the work order, takes some remedial action, and then if he solves the problem, Bob closes the work order right there. You're documenting it drives it. Yes. The question was, how much does your documentation help you with your ADM? It drives the justification for me to have an ADM program. So I have to use real data to decide whether or not I want to reduce the PM schedule on something, on a device that's recommended by the manufacturer. I have to look at it once a year. Well, if my data tells me, you know what, the activity of once a year, nothing happens. You know, it's exercise and utility. Let me back 24 months. I have the data to support that.
I just want to add, you're absolutely correct. The only thing that I would add to that is you have to standardize the data that you're documenting for these things so that you can track in history, try to automate as much as possible some of the things that your activities that you're doing for the device. That way you can really just kind of look back in history and plan and go, this is what this device, this group of devices, this model, whatever it is that you're looking at, I can see what is a maintenance-related failure or whatever it is you're looking at.
Right, and I think when you know that it's taking away the variability in your service.
And you've got the service documentation, which then leads to the service itself.
Yeah, one more thing I add, when you do AEM, based on the data and standardization and information, you have to have it documented and kept on file that this is your AEM process. If mitigate, you don't go for that.
That is correct.
You gotta show that data, show that the entity complies.
And hopefully you're all using a robust CMS product that Heidi's in from Apollo and we have Aaron in from Phoenix Data. You know, in our system, it's very easy to identify an AEM device, a device that's in the AEM program. Extremely easy. So surveyors have asked that, you know, during the survey. I was in our Summerlin Hospital in Las Vegas, and my director was out, and they walked in, and the surveyor came into clinical engineering. I had to produce what devices we had on AEM, and it's a very simple process to mine that data from our system, hand it to the surveyor, and be done with it. If you have to start digging, and that's not a good situation. If you're managing everything manually on an Excel spreadsheet or an Access document, that's probably not a good thing. You should probably see about investing in something more robust that makes it a lot more easier for you. So the FDA mandates that medical device companies produce a device history record. Again, this is what is kind of creates this tension. Well, heck, if you're going to make me responsible, this is right from the law. Manufacturing tracking device demonstrates the device was manufactured according to information device record. This is what generates the tension. Well, hey, once it hits our dock and they start servicing it, I lose all of it, but you're making me responsible for it. Documentation is king. Educate your teams on the importance of CMS documentation. You know, you hear it all the time. There's a reason why we do that. It protects you, your career. It protects our patients, and it protects our brand. In our case, the brand of our company. That we have all of our documentation. You know, document all activities, how much time should it take this document, detail. Don't document everything. Don't take shortcuts. Don't, you know, one of the things that happened drives me crazy with manufacturers, you get a PM or a CT scan. It's one line from the manufacturer. When they hand you the PM document, it's one line. Completed preventive maintenance on such and such a day. What does that mean? Where's the checklist? Where's the checklist? What do you do? You know,
I'll leave it to check.
they absolutely will, but when you have to ask for it. You have to ask for it. But when you get that initial field service feedback, or field service report, usually a one-liner, there's a couple manufacturers in the market. Most of them now in our program, they know what we expect. They email us that electronically, and then that goes electronically into our CMMS system attached to that. Even though we're not doing the PM, so our work order is open, we attach their documentation to that open PM work order and then close it. Because certainly our team members are managing that service. There's time associated with it. Remember, document everything. So when your technician goes up, escorts the technician to the room, or finishes up with the technician, document the time associated with that.
We PDF our field service reports directly to the customer.
Exactly. If you're not getting that electronic version of it, scan it in PDF. That's what we do. Yeah, we don't have any paper. Zero paper. I don't even have stickers for them. No PMs. How do I get around that? I give access to every single person across our country that is a UHS employee. They can go into our database, our medical device database. They know when the last PM is done, the next PM is due. They can actually do reports. They can generate a report out of our program if they want to report on their whole department. So it's good stuff. So here we go into 1345. So we're going to have ISO 1345 model quality system. Okay? So model your program after ISO 1345. As I mentioned to Blake, and they confirmed with me, do you have to go out and earn 1345 or 9001 for DMV? No, not for now. You know, self-policing, hopefully they avoid further term. We police ourselves. Hopefully the government won't come down and mandate things. So more than likely you're already doing most of the significant components of 1345. Harnesses, components that are outside of the standard to the standard. Educate your team why you're doing it, why it's necessary to do that. Stay ahead of it. So what's 1345 all about? Defines the requirements for medical device quality management. So it's harmonized with ISO 9001. A couple of differences include the ISO 9001 is a continuous process of improvement, correct, gentlemen? And has requirements for customer satisfaction, where ISO 1345 requires that the organization demonstrate the quality system is effectively implemented and maintained. Kind of, you know, what CMS requires of you, right? CMS doesn't dictate to you a whole lot of processes in your program. You develop the processes that work for your program, and then you better stick to your policies and procedures that you develop in your program. So the next section will present ISO 1345 high-level requirements. So I'm going to talk about some of the high-level components of 1345. And as we're going through this, think about your program. Think about what you're doing. I think you're probably going to find out you're probably complying with most of 1345 today. It's just a process of harmonizing things with the actual verbiage in 1345. So 1345, you know, it's this big standard, and really though, there's a bunch of clauses, and 4 through 8 are the ones that really talk about what you have to do in a medical device program. So clause 4, an introductory section that describes some general requirements, describes the need to have an effective quality management system. I think you keep on there and say that is all through the standard. Expect. You got to make sure that the data that you find in the system describes an effective maintenance program, not just a maintenance program. These regulatory requirements identify the process of data as to show interconnectivity and control through planning the risk-based approach. Documenting QMS in a quality. How many folks have a joint mission? Well, we have that at all of our facilities. Every one of our facilities, when we call it the Bible, no disrespect to any religions in the room, but we call it the Bible. And that's everything at the fingertips, even though it can be electronic. Some of our facilities have it on the drive. The electronic work can be in paper. And that is everything that's associated with the work transmission survey, everything associated with the transmission survey, EC by EC by EC. And FPA is absolutely a reference document that's in our office as well. Each medical device must have a unique voice. Each medical device must have a unique medical device product. You put an inventory tag, right? And you put it in your CMS. Guess what? You just start an electronic medical device tag. Okay? So you can find. All records must be kept and controlled according to documented procedure. Okay. So now you have to put together a procedure, a process of how you're going to manage and control the data that you're putting in your CMMS system. You know, even from a disaster plan, you know, our CMMS is hosted externally. So our product is software as a service. So our vendor that we contract with is the safekeeper of that information that has a disaster recovery process that's clearly spelled out. So I'm sure you have some. Even if you have it in-house, you have a disaster recovery plan from your IT.
I got a question in regards to inventory cost or getting everything that I need. It's like
Yeah.
Where they're currently at, that's going to apply directly to that.
So what Daniel's bringing up is the universal ID, right? So there's quite an initiative about in medical device manufacturing to have a universal ID. A lot of activity in Europe on the universal ID. Our program, we use the UMDNS from ECRI, right? So that's one method. However, the rest of the world is going to move to the universal ID. I don't know. You know, we were at a meeting last week in Savannah, Georgia, our seat and there was an ECRI person in that meeting, and we asked about where they were headed with the universal ID, and they're really. Dustin, do you have information on that?
Well, not on that. The UDIs are mandated for manufacturers of most medical devices across the board. And it's actually not just UMDNS that you're referencing with the ECRI.
Yes.
It goes and it actually gives you details such as, well, there's mandatory details such as manufacturer name. And there's optional details such as their address, phone number, and everything. It's a very powerful tool that if CMMS companies really realize what was out there, I think it pulled it in, especially if it's software service. You could maybe send your technician up to do an inventory and not only capture all the essentials of that product, but even the manufacturer of the product, the relationship with your phone.
It is contained on the code of the back device. Yes. But
I mean, they've all out in that. They were typically the summer of this year,
yes, they are.
So we did a little interesting thing in our organization and kind of experimented with it, basically building an app of our own CMOS interface and for technicians with version 2 is where we're going to have to look at the button note and server. We capture so much more than just the serial, which is more common environment.
Yeah, so for our device ad form, we require our technicians to take a picture. So if it's a new device that's not in our inventory, before the device gets added into our inventory, let's say it's my hospital in Denison, Texas, they're buying now a new model or even a new manufacturer of the device that's not in us. They're required to take a picture before we're even at it. Required to take a picture of the plate on the back of the device. So our chief takes that information and it's scannable, we want to make sure we don't homogenize the inventory.
I was in a meeting in San Diego a couple weeks ago, and software environment, and a question came up. We were asked if anybody had come across those labels from Europe, because we are, the manufacturers from Europe is coming across, and the 38 members have not come across that yet, because they want to integrate it into their software, and they know is where we don't want to get it. Even if we don't adopt the right way in the United States, we're going to get a little bit over, and it is a very valuable label. To understand all the information in that label.
Correct.
So I'm curious if anybody's doing this.
Well, yeah, and it's not really, at least the versions that are out there right now with the FDA, it's not actually all the information in the label. The label tells where to reference that information, tables that the FDA has. So the FDA will list like your QR codes around the dots, and it will then translate to a number, essentially, and it goes back to an FDA database. This is where the software serves. I got that handier than the non-keeping of the list of all the tables that you will publish on the website. And those tables are there to play around with.
Yeah, it's Dustin's referring to the software. Typically, those providers have a thing on the pulse of change that are happening in the industry and update that stuff. So we have something that's certainly always updated. You look at some of the IoT, IoT stuff that's going on. We had that urgent letter where it came out a few weeks ago. Those organizations were all over it. If you have a product like that, the information is already updated. You already knew what devices in your inventory by making model were affected with the export and could potentially have a whole ability associated with it. So, yeah, that is a great feature of function using software. So, continue on, clause 5, there's number 1 way, so I'll go requires leadership to show a commitment to establish and maintain an effective quality management system. This means establishing quality policy and objectives for the entire HPM program. It requires leadership to define and document responsibilities and authorities for effectively operating the HPM program as defined in quality management system. It requires the appointment of a leadership representative who will report on the effectiveness of the QMS program at annual reviews. Yeah, this can be interpreted as the EOC because they want to make sure that it's held at planned on a regular basis. Clause 6. This clause defines the resources needed for an effective audit. It requires that people and resources are identified who affect product quality and ensure they are confident. Right? Joint Commission, CMS. We have defined we competency assessments on our data, right? Same thing, ISO 1345, same thing. So this isn't a stretch. We're already doing that thing. It's just now we have this cool standard that defines it. It requires the organization to provide an infrastructure and environment needed to ensure medical safety and performance, such as health, cleanliness, perhaps any clothing requirements, something like that. Lab jackets, clinical laboratory environment is appropriate, personal protective equipment, where those issues could affect product quality. Establish arrangements to prevent contamination is necessary. So, dirty side of equipment, dirty equipment, clean equipment. All 7. So, this is the meat and potatoes of the requirements, the policies and procedures. This is where all that is contained. So you have the policies and procedures of your HPM program. It sets objectives, quality of the program. We're doing that. Establish processes for communication with customers. So how do what is your process for reporting a problem? How does your customer communicate with you that a machine is broken? How do you communicate back? How do you as I mentioned earlier, I will use PM standards. The form of communication is everybody has access, and a moment's notice, if it's only a couple of months, they have access to the device in front of, whether it's higher or whether it's apart. Establish plan and corrective maintenance procedure, purchasing control. I think you're doing it. However, from our perspective, we use a module in our CMS where all of our orders for spare parts or even service is done within the CMS. So if a technician is working on an infusion pump and needs a pressure sensor and goes into the purchasing module, puts in the part number, it pops up in the system, says, hey, I need one of those, and that integration gets sent off to our McKesson financials, the PO is generated, the part is ordered, then it comes back to the CMS. When the part comes in, the technician receives the part in. So the whole loop is closed and meets the purchasing control obligations, except for one part that we talked about. One thing is auditing. Okay. One thing that I do in my program, I don't know if you do in your program, maybe it's something like you walk away. We don't add any vendor to our program unless we know about it. So they typically have to have some kind of a quality management program in place before we buy it. Or even to the extent where I will go out and make a survey, visit the site, look at their process, look at their quality process. One of the most exciting things I can talk to you, maybe a tour of the facility, and what is the most valuable thing, regardless of what the president or the vice president of sales tell me, what's the employee? You're working on that next and if they're miserable, they kind of wrestle that, and it's like, working on like $35,000, $40,000. Well, not work the shit because I only got $35,000, $40,000 and I'm just getting my patients. I can make a deal for it. So we do not add vendors without appropriate auditing and review of those vendors. So that's one thing in the purchasing control portion of ISO 1345. Requirements for contamination control, you got a pump full of blood or a describe or contamination control. All that should be in the policy. Not a big stretch. Development of service procedures and reference materials. Okay, your tasks. If you're using manufacturer specifications, you have those manufacturer specifications easily available. All of our reference materials, our service manuals, are online and available to our technicians. Our CMMS allows us to put them in the CMS, but we don't do that. It's such a massive library. We have a separate drive that's available across the country. And that way you don't have to duplicate. So regardless if one hospital has a device and they get the service manual electronically, we usually put it onto this common drive, and it has access for everybody. So in the event that, sometimes in our health system, we'll update technology by new technology. Massimo Groups, over the last couple of years, we migrated to the Massimo Group. The first one that got it, we put the manual in. The other folks didn't have to do anything. It was already in place. Develop identification and traceability strategies for tracking. So your unique ID, you talk about the universal ID. We put the barcode sticker on, so we're compliant there. And then we get to the last clause. Measurement, analysis, and improvement. So this clause is all about, okay, you have this program in place, you have all these policies and procedures in place. Now what? Well, you got to monitor it, right? You got to measure it. How effective? Remember, I said that words about the entire process. Effective, effective, effective. You have to have an effective program. Well, how do you measure an effective program? So, management of customer feedback and complaints. So, in your CMMS system, we have a product called EasyNet where when they're on the floor and they have a broken device or defective device, they put a request in EasyNet and describe the problem. All of that is maintained in our system. We also do, on an annual basis, at least a customer satisfaction survey, and that's made part and parcel of our program as well. Risk management, risk assessment procedures, that however you describe your risk management program, risk assessment program. Establish the processes for reporting to authorities, CMS, Trade Commission, UD.
I have a comment on that one.
Okay.
The toughest inspector I ever had was a fire marshal in a small town in Oregon. He wanted to see my credentials. He wanted the facts to the analysis center that we did our work. So I sent them my CPAT certificate, and I sent them my certificate from the Devon Corporation showing that insurance. And I also should show them our policies to do with the manufacturing expects to be done to their equipment and done by an ISO.
Yes,
So he accepted it.
absolutely. So we have to measure those competencies for our employees. You have to have a file for your employee, just like mobile instrument has to have for their employees that serves surgical instruments, scopes. They have to have a competency. Did this person get trained on how to provide lenses? What's their competency? We're required to have the same thing. And if you're got a service contract on a GE Discovery CT, you really should have access to that GE person that comes through that front door. You better know their competence to work with that facility. That's one that's often overlooked until joint internal auditing. So in our program, we have an internal audit process. So we have a 58-step audit process. It audits your financial performance, it audits your quality performance, it audits your HR. You have all the competencies outlined for the staff. This audit form, like I said, is 57 or 58 check boxes that we go through at each one of our facilities to ensure that what's happening in California is happening in Wellington Park. We do that at least once a year. We audit, it can be a different auditor, like the same auditor that goes around the country. We could take a person from Southeast United States and send them to Los Angeles, Nevada to survey those hospitals. So you're not auditing yourself. Let's see, broken devices, non-conforming identification and isolation. Do you have a process for that? Because that's required now, right? If you have a broken device that comes into your department, what should it have? An open work, right? So if a surveyor walks in, you better have an open work. But most importantly, at 2 a.m. in the morning, Nurse Jim walks into your department. I need an ID pump. I'm out of ID pump. I can't find an ID pump. And they get security to open your door, and I bet you clinical engineering, they gotta have an ID pump. And they open your door, and the pump sits in there. Is it ready to go? So make sure that you have some way of identifying and quickly walking in place.
Security, let nurses into your department, they can grab equipment, there's some problems going on.
Correct. But I assure you, We had, and it always happens going, joint commission survey. So we had a hospital, I remember the hospital, we had an ultrasound issue, and I think it was on the OB board. They didn't use it, they put it in an office somewhere. You tell us, we just got the office board, and, of course, it went through, UTL.
UTL.
Unable to find the foot. Unable to find the foot. So we retired. Of course, yes, staff, enough. Well, guess what? Some new doctor came in, they wanted to do ultrasound on their local patients. And magically, that machine made its way back out to the floor. We had joint commission survey come up. What is a joint commission survey? The ultrasound system. Hey, can I see the documentation for the ultrasound system? What ultrasound system? We retired that a year ago. Yeah, the ultrasound. I had in my PT department, the name device, there are some devices for something like that. Brand new, and it was one of my outfits that's on my insular facility. They didn't call it. We just had it out on the floor. Worked great for me. The surveyor walked over to that building, which is probably located 10 miles away from the hospital. To take that to so it happened. You know, it's not bad.
The first thing on easiest way to find that work is when the surveyor is still with us. And you don't just find this way.
That ain't it.
No, you offer them a job, you see, why don't you
You know, we do 5-hour Chick-fil-A cards, you know, rewards, look, hey, we have TV posted around the hospital. You know, have you seen this device? You know, and we give you a free lunch at Chick-fil-A card or something like that. But invariably, this stuff happens. Data analysis of equality management, improvement process development, identify data analysis. So you're going to crunch your numbers, make sure that you are an effective program, that you're improving the process, and if there's remedial action, when identified, make sure you have a process identified. It's that process improvement that Joe mentioned that we got in the define a record of preventive action required to maintain quality management system, effectiveness, suitability, accuracy, and ensure that by safety and performance. So again, you're just monitoring the program, you're developing actions. That's the annual review. You know, that you have to do for us joint commission. You have to have an annual review of your equipment management program. That's essentially what we're doing. That's essentially what we're doing. So here, let's sum it up. Let's get going. I think we're getting close, and we want to leave a little bit more time for questions. I appreciate your participation so far. Regulatory pressures will continue in the near future, caused by, in my opinion, the continued changes in healthcare delivery payment process. They're bringing out margin and money from the healthcare system, sales and service of medical devices, right? With continued pressure, lower cost medical devices, lower cost service, margins are going to constantly driven down, so they're going to look for ways to enhance that revenue and maintain their profit margin. Further consolidation of health delivery organizations, so hospitals being bought and sold all the time, mergers, acquisitions. Heck, in Philadelphia, we just had a hospital closed. One of the largest hospitals, I worked at that hospital in the 1980s. There's blood in Philadelphia, and that was in its heyday. It was $6 million. So you're going to see continued consolidation. You know, you're always, I read every day, I get morning mail from publication, you know, rural hospitals, and the reimbursement strategies, and the pressures on that. Again, I think that let's continue to see consolidation, because you got more to push for the home health, right? We're pushing stuff outside the hospital. So our career is going to shift a little bit because they got to monitor those patients. How do you prevent that patient from coming back into your ED? So they hook up these home monitoring devices, whether it's a blood pressure device or EKG monitor. You know, gosh, you see that happen commercially. You put 2 fingers on the device and you get a diagnostic quality EKG. You buy that for $100 on your phone. So we're going to have to manage that. I think that's some of what changes you're going to see in our industry. OEMs and some other medical device service requirements in the healthcare service environment will continue to level the playing field, specifically around perceived regulatory burden on them versus perceived non-regulatory burden on the health delivery organization. That's why I say, take the initiative now to modernize your current practices with ISO 13485. Stay engaged in the career field. There's lots of organizations. They post about collaborative communities, and they post us. We very engaged with us in our pre-collaborative community. Patrick Lemack sits with us in that collaborative community, and he's always updating members on the website. So go to the website, join the professional association, ACCP, and another great resource. Attend local and national meetings like we're doing today. This is considered. You know, I think a lot of folks perceive sales folks as the evil, you know, all they want is your money and you know, what can they sell you? But frankly, I use them as a resource. They're ears on the street, they're going to your competitive hospitals, and they're going around and listening to what's happening in our industry. That's usually the first place that I find out information about changes that are happening. So, yeah, this is a sales profession. So, most importantly, like I said, like I think it's a proven process to harmonize your current program against the standard. Accreditation is not necessary.